All right, everyone, welcome. Thank you very much for spending your evening with us. It seems like it's so late right now, but it is just 6 o'clock and time to begin our meeting. We'll start with our roll call and we'll start with Janet Hall.
Here.
Ron Evans.
Here.
Dane Nielsen.
Here.
And Emily Schofield.
Here.
And I see, it looks like we have Tony Moronis with us via Zoom.
Here.
Tony?
Yep, here.
There we go. And I'm Tim Kirsch. Thank you, everyone. We also have with us tonight our COG administration, Laura Conroy and Desiree Collins. Thank you very much. Anybody that has any potential conflicts of interest with anything on tonight's agenda, please state it for the record. Nothing at this time, but something comes up during the meeting, be sure and state it at that time. Calling for any announcements. Does anybody have any announcements they wish to make to the board? Public comment. Anybody out there in Zoom that would like to make any public comment? Nothing. Okay, old business. Looks like our consent agenda only consists of October 7th regular board summary notes. Anybody have anything that they would like to add or change to these summary notes? If not, we would entertain a motion to approve them.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the summary notes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our news business, it looks like we're gonna start off with our treasurer's report and our treasurer, Mr. Ron Evans.
So last month we had a invoice of $4,370 from the COG. Mainly to do with, I understand, the Great Basin Rule effort. Also Cable Houston for $4,982. At the time I had that, I didn't have the budget to pay the COG. And that was because of an accounting error that I had. I have it now, so I go ahead and pay that. But we do need to adjust the budget to put a sheet here that shows the adjustments. So that we do have some funds going forward in the budgeting categories. That's be on page 5 of the document. We basically amounts to moving from reserves to the current budget, $15,000, and moving from reserves to the legal fund, $5,000. And this shows what the deal with, change of that, and the final on page 6 shows the final budget after those adjustments.
So is that something we have to do in a supplemental budget? Yes, so that's gonna be something we have to have another meeting for. Yay.
Laura has a process that she will explain to it. We'll go through to achieve that.
I guess is that all for your treasurer's report then, so we'll just turn
That's
it
it.
over to Laura then for her staff report.
Right.
The next thing on our agenda.
Yeah, so I'll thank Mr. Evans for sort of giving staff a roadmap for what the numbers, what he's recommending the numbers be for that supplemental process. So yes, in order to move funds out of contingency, you will have to do a supplemental budget because of the amount of the funds that you're moving. But more importantly, you'll need to do a supplemental budget because your revenues are gonna look real different. We were able to confirm with Marion County that for this fiscal year, they're not anticipating an additional influx of revenue for this board. You'll recall there were conversations earlier this spring where there would be an $80,000 injection, and there was for legal, and then I guess it was actually last fall. And then there was a, kind of an additional request for funding. They're not able to, provide that now, and it doesn't look like they'll be able to provide it this spring either. So, more conversation to come around that. But what that means for this group is you'll need to adjust your budget, because you're not gonna be receiving the estimated, additional $130, I think it was, that they were gonna, inject. So, it also makes it really hard when you have a budget that looks a lot different from your bank accounts to manage it. So we're going to just go, take you through a process to align, your actual budget with what's actually in your bank account. In order to do that, some of you will recognize this process from last spring when we did it the other way around. We had an additional injection of revenue, so we had to do a supplemental budget. Now you're not going to be receiving that, so we still have to do a supplemental budget because the figures are changing pretty dramatically. So, what we'll do, and this is the date correction I mentioned, so in the staff report under the budget section, which is on the second page of the staff report, you'll see a process. We will send your COG staff will send a notice to the Statesman Journal, which we're required to do, letting the community know that we're gonna be doing a supplemental budget process. I had put 11/4, which is tonight. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll post, I'll work with, Mr. Evans to create a supplemental budget that looks a lot like the numbers that we just put together. We'll just add some more details that we're required to do. That will get, posted to the NSSA website, on the 12th. This board will need to hold a Zoom meeting on the 18th, at noon to quickly hold a hearing, for a minimum of 1 minute. And then you'll take up the supplemental budget at your December board meeting. So you'll have the budget that, again, like I say, the numbers will look a lot like what Mr. Evans has already provided. We'll just format those a little bit differently and have some other information in there that you're required to have, and get that out to you, and then you'll check it out on the 18th and in December. So speaking of that, I'm anticipating that our burn rate, if you will, the amount of staff time that we charge the council or the board will be going down this year, and kind of the end of last year, there was a lot of heavy lifting that needed to happen in terms of supporting the IGA work that you looked at, the construction work that you looked at, the gates connection ordinance that you looked at, all of your understanding of the Maui decision and its the court's interpretation of the Clean Water Act, the DEP permitting, the three basin rule petition. There was just a lot that this board was engaged with and needed staff support with. At this point, things are sort of rolling, if you will. So we're aware that the three basin rule petition has been filed. The EQC will take that up on the 21st. Not a lot for your staff to do between now and then. And if the EQC decides to initiate rulemaking, maybe some involvement by this board and by your staff. But that's to be seen. And the session is coming up. We will continue to advocate for additional funding in cooperation with Marion County. But a lot of the work for that has already been done. So the flyers have already been created, the meetings with our lobbyists have already been done, and now we'll make sure that they do their job. Or I should say, let them do their job and engage you when and if we need you during the session. All of that to say, we're expecting the COG staff time charges to be, and also your cable Houston charges or your legal services charges to be going down. And so you have, I think, about $35,000 left in your bank account. We anticipate that you'll have plenty of money to get through the end of June of this year, so the end of this fiscal year. So if there were questions about that, just know that we're being mindful of that and helping you be good stewards of your dollars. And that actually also covered the rest of what we've been up to. So helping the county with their three basin rule petition, obviously working with other interested parties, including the tribes on that, putting your own comments in. working with the lobbyists, COGS lobbyists, the Confederated Tribes lobbyists, Salem lobbyists, and the county's lobbyists to get ready for session. So just sort of an education campaign, if you will, making sure that those professionals have everything they need to understand what the asks are going to be going into the 2025 session. So, and then I think lastly, although not an NSSA project, we do sometimes report on other projects that impact the canyon. So as you know, COG and Marion County have been operating a residential septic grant. So we've done a lot of discussion of the commercial septic grants in this space, but there's also the residential side. The deadline is fast approaching for people to get their applications in. So we've done the initial outreach last year in partnership with the disaster case managers and a mailer. We did another mailer earlier this spring. We did a mailer this August. And then another one about 2 weeks ago. So people have had a lot of touch from the county and from the COG about make sure you get your application in because the deadline will be for applications will be December 1st. COG has written 167 checks to individual property owners. I think Marion County's is a little higher than that, mostly having to do with we have different grant funds, and so our criteria are different. So sometimes COG isn't able to write a check, but the county is. So that's why that coordination has been really helpful. So I'll just say, if you know somebody that needs a reimbursement grant for their septic tank and they haven't applied yet, please encourage them to do so.
I've never heard of a septic grant program for commercial in gates. Is there one?
No, I don't think, and that, Chris, I don't know if it's here, Brian, if it's here. So I'll let them speak to that. Did you hear the question?
I did. I'll go ahead and answer. Let's see, there is one property in Gates that was made eligible, and that is the Camp Benedue property. But no other properties in Gates are eligible for that commercial grant.
Yeah.
Real quick, so that was a reimbursement grant for septics? What about like folks in Detroit that haven't done any work or put any septic in yet? Is there any courses that they should be taking?
For the COG grant, if they want to apply, they have to apply by by December 1st. For the COG grant, we can issue them a letter that says, if you meet our income criteria, and if it's for a repair or replacement, and if you get final, and if your receipts pass review, then we can provide you a grant up to 25,000 for a standard or up to 38 for an ATT. The challenge for COG is that we do have that income criteria. And so most folks that are able to front that kind of cash don't meet our income criteria for reimbursement. And that is something that we've explained to our funder, but the funds that they were given had those strings attached. So that's where we are.
Okay.
We've had folks, I had a gentleman who took out title loans on 3 of his vehicles so that he could put his septic tank in, and then we repaid him, reimbursed him as quickly as we could. So there's been some creativity by people that are with moderate income. But for folks that, and I'll just give you the limits. So for a single person, the limit would be 38,000. For a 2-person household, it's 52,000. And we look at, for 3 years, it kind of goes in about $12,000 increments. The challenge is that the income we have to look at is their 2021 tax return. Many of those fire victims cashed out their retirement accounts or received large amounts of sums from insurance or other. And so it artificially inflates that income. So these are some of the hurdles that we've worked with. They are not hurdles that the county has with their grant funds. So they have, they are less restricted on the funds that they have. However, that December 1 deadline is really important. So if people don't have their applications in, we are not able to help them after that. So. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. time does run out on things.
It does.
So we ourselves are up against time crunch, as we all know, ours is December of 2026. Yes, so. Looking at all that coming at us.
And that's it for my staff report, unless there are questions.
Anybody have any questions? Any questions for Laura? Anybody out there in Zoom land have any questions for Laura? If not, we'll move on. It looks like, Chris Imo, county update, you're on agenda. How's it going, Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Doing well. Sound okay?
What was that?
Is my sound coming in? Is my sound coming in?
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Can you hear
is.
me? Okay, I saw a thumbs up. Okay, great. Yeah, so it's been a very busy month for the project. But it's really just been, we've been hitting a lot of technical milestones through the project. Meanwhile, we have our petition to change the 3-basin rule for that update coming in. Looks like we're on the agenda for November 21st. So we're very grateful to DEQ with all their assistance in going through all the steps of the petition. We're very excited to see if the EQC is able to provide a permitting pathway for the ongoing project in Mill City and Gates, and also, for a future system in the Detroit Idana area. So hopefully next month we'll be able to deliver some good news. As I mentioned, we've just had a lot of technical things happening on the engineering side. Getting ready, we're kind of putting all the pieces into place so that we're ready to start down the NPDES permitting pathway as soon as that becomes available. So we've actually had 6 different memos handed in to the county from our geotechnical consultant. One of those we've gotten through and gotten into DEQ, working on the other. So DEQ, please stand by. But we just had our water quality sampling memo go in. And the ones in the queue, there is a beneficial water use determination. So that is, to do with beneficial aquifer use. The nitrate modeling, we have a bioscreen modeling, which is kind of typical of a wastewater effluent in groundwater. And then we have the geochemical modeling memo, which is separate. This is more surface water contaminant. So we're actually changing how we approach a groundwater surface water interaction, doing some unique modeling we haven't seen before. So we've been working hard on how do we come up with that and how do we include all of that in a study. I know there's nothing for this body to act on. I just want you to kind of know what's happening behind the scenes. And then we're also, right now, Keller's reviewing the pilot infiltration test memo. I know that's one DEQ has been interested in. Some of you may have gone by the site in Mill City and seen the pilot test where we actually excavated a miniature infiltration basin and filled it up with tap water. And then we continued to measure the impact that had on the groundwater levels. And so they're working on the memo to summarize those results. We've also had the 30% plan set come in, which is kind of an early engineering plan set for the pipeline from Gates to Mill City. And we've gotten our comments back to the engineers as well. So the next step will be for the engineers to address the comments, kind of produce a revised set, and then they'll start circulating that to other agencies for review, especially Lynn County, since it's in their right of way, and also Mill City, so that they can see the portion that's going to be under their city street standard. Let's see, we've also taken the purchase and sale agreement through to the owners. I believe that's back in their hands now that the county board of commissioners has signed it. So that gives the project team unfettered access to the project site, as well as sets things in motion to divide up the property and for the project to purchase that portion where the treatment plant and the infiltration basin are going to sit. And so once that is completed, we'll take portion of that, which is a piece of the existing property. We're only buying what we need. And we'd also be buying the portion that would be a realigned Fairview Street. So we'd be kind of paving the street that fronts the treatment plant and building that out, which is different from the current alignment. So all that's been in motion and went before the board last week, signed back to the property owner. Now we just have to kind of tie up the final steps to take ownership of the property. So very exciting. Again, no action needed by this board, but we want you to know where that stands. So once we've completed the construction on that site and commissioned it, then the intent would be to turn that over to the operator along with the land it sits on. And that piece is right now, it sits, everybody knows where the project site is now. It's just right on the east side of Mill City, right by Fairview Street. We've also done some rework of the Gates collection system design. So the engineers were able to eliminate 2 lift stations and a significant amount of pipe as well. So they were able to find ways to convey all the wastewater more efficiently coming out of the Gates system. There's always some trade-offs. I know that was a big push from Gates to eliminate a lot of those grinder pumps as well. So there are a lot less grinder pumps in the new concept plan. It does include a few easements for lot line crossings that were not in the original concept. So that's just the trade-off of a redesign. So we're probably going to be engaging in the next couple months with the city of Gates on how we approach those. How do we start, because we have to take those through the NEPA process. That means, getting boots on the ground out there, doing field surveys, archaeological assessments, and so on. But it means that the system will be cheaper to operate with less lift stations. So right now, the engineers, we're not quite at early engineering plans. It's more like concept until they figure out exactly where things are going to go. So they're still playing around a little bit with the locations of those lift stations and right away. Once we have something a little bit more locked in, we'll start putting together a first kind of drawing concept that shows where that is in relation to the nearby properties. But probably the biggest change is that the regional pumping station would be on the Lynn County side. So that's kind of the big one that pumps it into the force main. And then we're kind of contemplating a couple lift stations up on the Marion County side that are smaller that just help get it across. And then we still maintain the same crossing under the bridge. So that portion is not really planned for 30% design until sometime in the spring, but we'll probably have a concept probably sooner, like an end of winter, that we can start circulating that shows where things are going to go in Gates. So just all that information to say a lot's happening on the design and we're moving ahead. Up in the Detroit area and Idana area, we've been coordinating with the fire district. Looks like they're moving along on their project, so we're gonna, as soon as they're able to get the final pieces, we can start issuing that grant. So the Idana Fire District, no, it's the fire district in Idana. I always forget the right name. Sorry, but that one was one of the other additions to the commercial grant program. That was a specific call out so that we could take care of their septic system for the fire station up there. We've also released bids for Canes Marina. So you may have seen those advertised if you follow construction journals. But Sladen put out bids to do the actual private sewer installation on Canes last Friday, I think. So that one is moving along. We still have a lot of work to do on Canes Marina, but it's at 90% design. Coming close, we'll be getting to 100% design pretty soon. And then we still have to do the WPCF permitting process for the holding tanks. But really on that one, the biggest, heaviest piece of that is it's kind of a private sewer system there. So that's the one we wanted to get out in bids because it's such an aggressive timetable. And we are tentatively scheduled to do test pits on the ODOT right-of-way area, that piece fronting downtown, on December 5th. That's kind of pending the SHPO process and pending weather, really. But hopefully the weather is good for that day. So we be working with our excavator. So round about this time next month, you may see them out running test pits. And that'll tell us the specific parameters for designing that drain field system downtown on the south side of 22. Then just a lot of coordination with the other commercial properties up there. Each one's kind of its own unique animal, so we're working individually one-on-one with all the owners that are in the grant program. We really want to make sure that everybody in the grant program gets in this year so that we can help them start getting through the process. So if there are any outliers who haven't put in a grant application but are considering it, we probably want to just keep pushing them to get an application in as soon as they can and not wait. Looking at our list, it looks like we've kind of gotten most of the eligible owners in the program so far. But there are a few we've had contact with where we haven't quite gotten them into the application yet. So we'll just be reaching out one more time to them. So that's the end of my data dump for this month. I'll just pause and see if there are any questions on all of that.
You've definitely been busy. I believe Janet has a question for you, Chris.
Hey, Chris, you said that you eliminated 2 stations in Gates. Is that 2 additional stations to the one you reported last time?
Oh, I think I may have talked about it last month then too. Sorry about that.
Okay, no.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the timing. The original concept plan had 4 local lift stations and then 1 big pumping station. We've gotten it down to 2 local lift stations and the pump station. But you know, as of last month, we weren't quite sure the alignment. Now that we can see where those are going to go, we can see that the trade-off is it created the need for a few additional easements for lot line crossings. It's just, if we had to take it all the way back up to the right of way and then back down, it adds a lot of length, and then the elevations just don't work.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. And the other trade-off is it creates a line that's a little bit deeper, but you know, this is the great thing about having a CMGC delivery method, is we can work in real time with the contractor who has experience excavating in that area. And we see it's really not going to be a massive cost based on prior projects in the area. So that's one of those advantages of having the full team engaged at one time, is we can troubleshoot these kinds of things.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Chris? Any questions out there in Zoom land? If not, thank you once again, Chris.
Right.
Like I say, it's obviously I've been busy, and we appreciate all you're doing for us.
Yeah, we're excited to see it moving.
Getting down to the end of the agenda, I have agency updates. I see Mary's here with DEQ. Mary, you got anything for us?
A couple things. So as Chris was talking about engineering, so they had given us 50% design for the treatment system. So we today gave them back our comments on that design. So they'll start working on that. So that's try to be as quick as we can on those comments. So that's good things. They can continue on that. The Canes Marina, I know Denny's in the room, so DEQ has to permit that. It's because they're holding tanks. Otherwise it was something else. Marion County could do it, but it is something that falls into our jurisdiction, and Jessica Joy has been coordinating on that from DEQ side, so things are looking good. for approval on our side. So just want to mention that. And then the petition to change the 3 basin rule. So where we're at, we have the comments. We wrote the staff report. We put out the agenda. The agenda has us, as Chris said, or Laura said, November 21st at 9:05. We have 45 minutes to present the staff report, and usually that'll take us about 20-25 minutes. There'll be probably comments from the commission. It's only DEQ staff and the commission. We're not having Marion County do anything in that process. And then after our presentations and the Q&A, then the commission will make a decision. And remember, there's a couple options for the commission. They could just deny the petition outright, and then they go away. They could tell DEQ to go do something, or they could accept the petition as is and then tell DEQ to go rule writing. So because we have to do rule writing regardless if because the petition is changing the rule, so it doesn't go into effect until it is actually gone through that rule process. And the rule process is that you form a committee usually, and you have the rule, and then you decide on what the rule will be. Then we'll have another public process on the rule. Then it'll go back in front of the commission. They will hopefully approve the rule, and then it will be promulgated. So they have to go through that process if we're directed to do rule writing. Probably on next Tuesday after the holiday, we will post the staff report on our commission website. If you commented on it, and certainly Mill City gave comments, and the board gave comments, you will get a link to that staff report. So you will see what DEQ is recommending by next Tuesday. And you can't really, there's not going to be another comment period on the petition. That was done in September. But there will be an opportunity. There is a public forum associated with the EQC Commission in the afternoon on that Thursday. So if somebody wanted to provide information to the commission, you would know what their what they voted on, and then you could have the opportunity at that time. It's only about an hour, but certainly it would be available if anybody wanted to make a statement about the decision or staff report or whatever. So I'm going to stop there to see if there's any questions about the 3 basin process. I know it's kind of complicated, but I certainly can answer some questions if you have them.
Definitely, it is complex. Questions? Anybody have any questions on the application process with the DEQ? I don't see any questions for you right now, Mary, so appreciate you advocating for us, though.
Yeah, well, I do the best I can, trying to make sure that the upper management knows the schedule and knows the pressures and whatnot, so we can hopefully flex where we need to help keep this project moving forward. So
Absolutely. I don't see anybody else, either Business Oregon or Regional Solutions.
yeah, they weren't available today. Sorry.
Okay, so unless somebody has something else that they would like to add to tonight's meeting, I think it's been mostly an informational meeting for us all. We appreciate the updates from everybody, obviously, and we know there's a lot going on out there, and we appreciate everybody keeping us up to speed. So thank you, everyone. Unless somebody has something to add, we're gonna call it a night.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.